Hey everyone, just a quick message here that this episode is brought to you by a new shop that I just launched. That's right, popculture.shop is a new merch shop where you can not only find Low-Key Geek and eventually MovieTime merchandise, but you will find merchandise dedicated to some of the biggest things in pop culture at the moment. Whether it's movies, TV, video games, memes, or anything of the like, you'll find some of the homages to some of the biggest things that are happening currently at the time. You also eventually will find some cool retro throwbacks in here and there. The shop just launched, so bear with me. I'm filling in the inventory, but you'll find new stuff dropping every week. But to help celebrate the launch of this brand new merch shop, I'm giving all of you, the listeners, subscribers here at the Low-Key Geek channel, a nice little discount to check it out. So if you use the code LOWKEYGEEK at checkout, you'll get yourself a nice little 15% discount. So definitely check it out. This is another great way to help support the channel and show your love and support for everything that we do here. But it's also a brand new venture of my own, just going out into the retail market. So any support that you could throw our way would be greatly appreciated. So once again, that is Pop Couture, popculture.shop, popculture.shop, a shop for geeks who are chic.
It's about that time to grab your favorite snack and sit back and relax, because you are now listening to the Movie Time podcast with your hosts, Low-Key Geek Renee Zalata and Blake the Wolf. Take it away, boys.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Blake, I have a very important question to ask you, and this episode will be determined based on whether or not you choose to accept what I'm going to tell you or ask you. Are you ready to talk about Mission Impossible 7?
I am.
Okay, great.
But wait, it's not actually Blake. It's been Tom Cruise.
No! Well, I'm not actually Renee. I am Blake. Oh
man! If you Photoshop that in later, big kudos.
Oh my God, that's
so much work.
That's gonna be a whole other level of editing right there that I'm not anywhere near. But but yes, we are here obviously to talk about the big movie of the week, and that is Mission Impossible 7, which is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. The first time a Mission Impossible has a two-parter in the series, in the whole franchise. So obviously this is going to be a momentous movie for the summer. And Blake and I were going to basically talk about our thoughts and feelings of the movie, how it kind of correlates and how it, gels with the whole franchise in general and all that good stuff. But if you don't know yet, I am Renee, Low-Key Geek. That's my buddy Blake there. What's going on, dude? Outside of all of this Mission Impossible stuff, how have you been?
There are other things going on. I've been binging Mission Impossible movies leading up to this conversation. What other things could possibly be going on? Because the world has been, in my mind, about to end, or there's going to be a nuke go off, or plutonium being exchanged every single day for the last 5 days as I get through these, sometimes twice in the same day.
Sure. Yeah.
So I am all in on this franchise right now. I have absorbed it through just Clockwork Orange style, just keeping my eyes open, just watch them all. I can't fathom anything else being worth talking about other than the fate of the world. And the greater the suffering, the greater the peace.
That's right.
So I'm excited to piece through these with you. What about you, man?
Yeah, no. I'm totally ready, because like you said, I don't think anything else is worthy talking about. Strikes and writers and actors and maybe the fate of Hollywood, not important right now. Right now, it's all about Mission Impossible, Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise, summer blockbuster king. That's right, I'm calling him the king of the summer blockbuster at this point. Okay. I mean, he when he comes out, and he comes out swinging,
Yep.
And apparently,
2 summers in a row.
And apparently he loves popcorn when he watches movies. It's all about popcorn at the movies. So yeah, how can you not, right?
Love it.
So before we get into all that, obviously, if you are brand new to this channel and you're seeing us or listening to us for the very first time, hello, welcome. Glad you can join us. We are the MovieTime podcast, which is a weekly movie talk review podcast where, you got two guys talk and bullshit about movies. And if you like what you see and you want to see more of this stuff, obviously, subscribe, follow, do all that nice stuff. Hit that like button on YouTube's. Hit the notification bell to get notified every time a new episode is uploaded. That's a great way to show your support. But another great way is to also comment. Join in on the conversation. Let us know your thoughts about everything that we're talking about. I know on podcast platforms you can't do that really. But again, I am still promoting this and pushing this. I would love for someone to leave a voice message on Spotify. The option is there. Just go ahead and do it because that would be like the best thing ever. And we will play it on a future episode whenever that happens. So definitely make it happen.
Also, if you are in the podcast app, just go to the review 5-star thing, write a little review. It actually bumps it up.
It does.
And somehow our YouTube numbers are often much better than our podcast numbers. So if you are doing that or you just got the podcast app, just go do that real quick.
Yeah.
And show the love that way.
Yeah, it really helps show the support and helps the channel grow and all that, and gets more awareness of what we do here and all that. Because obviously, we would love to build a community and have a community filled of movie lovers, cinephiles, movie nerds, all that stuff. Just having conversations about movies. Because what other better way to spend your time and talk about the things that we love and all that? So,
prompt for the comments. Put a comment right now.
Yeah.
How do you do popcorn at the movies? No popcorn, add candy to it, extra butter. I'm honestly curious. Do you make popcorn at home? Do you microwave it? I actually do stovetop. I make it. Got kernels in there. I've got a recipe.
That's right.
My secret is you use what's it called? It's a powder, is it called? Wow, now I'm blanking. Protein powder, like yeast powder. And whey flavor, healthier than butter and all that stuff.
Okay.
But it adds like a nice little. It's got flavor to it, and it's not overwhelming. I've got this little powder. I'm not proud of this one. It's like this little butter powder that like tastes like butter, but you just put powder in it. So I add that, a little bit of salt. Just I'll eat so much popcorn that way. I make some good home popcorn, and none of you are gonna have it, but I want to know what you do. What's your popcorn situation? There's some weird ones. I've heard some wild ones, and just add that to the comments real quick.
I'm sure. I mean, especially like if you go to like those dine-in theaters, because they have like some unique popcorn stuff. Like if you go to like the Alamo Draft House, they have is it the Parmesan cheese popcorn that you could buy, and it's bottomless too. So that means you get free refills on that stuff. But it's huge. It's gigantic. A big giant silver bowl they plop down right in front of you. But yeah, a question that I have too, because I have a friend who goes nuts with this stuff, is salt. How much salt do you put on your popcorn? Because
that's what can ruin it. Because you can get dehydrated and kind of sick and nauseous.
Exactly.
Too much butter and too much salt. I'm literally not okay because I'll eat a large popcorn if it doesn't have too much of that. But you want some flavor,
of course. So
for me, it's basically as minimal as I can to up the flavor, but not feel it afterward, because that's what'll ruin it for me.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to town on the soda. And I'm having to this is a 2-hour and 42-minute movie-ish.
And you got to run to the bathroom. Yeah. Which is, I have to say,
like Tom Cruise,
you're just running. You're just running to the bathroom, and you have like a quick montage in your head about the whole thing. This is the first movie that I actually had to run to the bathroom, like desperately run to the bathroom. And I've never done that in any movie in a long, long time. So, but I didn't mind it so much because one of the reasons why I'm so happy to talk about this movie now is because I've actually seen this movie already a long time ago. And I'm so happy I could actually say that because the movie's out and all that. But I saw a very early screening of this movie. I want to say back in maybe February, March. I don't remember exactly when, but
everyone, Renee and I are actually friends, and I hate it when he does this. Oh yeah, I just happened to go see the Mission Impossible movie a few months early. Wow, Mr. Big Time. Okay, I'm glad you get to talk about it. As I just saw.
Hey, I've been sitting on this for a long time, and I've been dying to talk about this movie and all that. And it's like, and then I got to see it again on Tuesday. And I'm like, you know what? They didn't change much of anything from the last time I saw it. I mean, running time is maybe, I would say, 10 minutes shorter, but that's 10 minutes only that they cut out. And I'll tell you exactly what I know they cut out mostly when we get into it here. But yeah, so let's talk about the movie in the franchise. Well, what we could do is like, how much of a fan were you of the franchise in general? Because for me, the very first one has a special place in my heart because that was one of the last movies I saw in the movie theater with my mom. She's still alive. I don't want people to think that she's dead, but she just doesn't go to movies anymore. But this was like the last time.
It was so bad. She hated it so much.
It ruined her whole experience.
Or it was like, so good. She was like, I can't go to another movie after that. What's the point? It doesn't get better.
Right. Mm-hmm. No, she really enjoyed it. She really thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think that was one of the rare moments where I realized how big of a star Tom Cruise was, because like she was just happy to see Tom Cruise in the movie. And Jon Voight. She's very familiar with him, and Vanessa Redgrave. It's just like, oh, Vanessa was fabulous in this movie and all that. And I'm like, I don't think I know who these people are. And then I had to kind of look back and all that. But yeah, what were your thoughts about the franchise as a whole? And, both Blake and I actually did a whole rewatch. Unplanned, unscheduled. He did it on his own. I did mine on my own. We had a very rainy last couple of weekends here. So I took one weekend and I was like, I'm going to binge through this whole entire franchise. But yeah, what were your feelings about the franchise in general?
So I've seen all these movies in theaters, except maybe the first one I think I missed. I was probably a little too young. I'd have to really do a memory search. But I actually saw 2 through 7 with your mom in theaters, and I know you said it was the last time she went to theaters. It was the last time you went to the theater with her. She and I have seen them all. It's like appointment viewing. That's why she hasn't been going with you.
My God, like, she lied to me this whole time. Oh yeah, man,
sorry, man.
Sucks.
I'm sorry you had to find out on air.
Terrible. Oh man, my world has just changed right now.
No, but for real. So what I didn't realize is how big of a fan I was of the entire franchise, because I've seen them piecemeal. I haven't rewatched them in a while. Every now and then, you just kind of like, okay, this one's on, and I'll watch it and enjoy it and remember the beats. But for the most part, I didn't realize how much I remembered the first one. But it makes sense because I was a boy and we had the VHS of MI1. When you're young and you have a VHS or something, you watch that about 1,000 times back in the 90s. The 90s were great for watching the same movie 1,000 times. You have like 10 VHSs and they're getting burned out. And then the second one, I also remembered a lot of the beats, way more than I thought I would. After that, these are mainly movies I would have been older and seen in theaters once. But I saw them all for sure. I was surprised by that. I kept thinking like, oh, maybe there will be one that I just missed or kind of forgot about. Because especially there were some years there where I was Mr. Cinephile and blockbusters suck, Marvel movies suck, like that attitude about things. But no, these have been appointment viewing. And I would say it's pretty similar to James Bond. I will say these are more fun than James Bond. James Bond is cool and self-referential, and it's more like suave, and this one is more in your face. It's American with the intensity of the action.
Yeah,
that's actually a good description. It's basically the same thing, but like, what if we just made it
American,
more explosions and more Evil Knievel stuff and more Blue Angel Air Show stuff, all that.
Yeah, that's Ethan Hunt is the American James Bond. That's basically what it is.
Not subtle about things. No. He's just I like that. That makes sense now. But to me, it's similar where even if I'm in like, oh, I don't go see fast movies, which now I do. But even then, these are special. And to me, these are blockbusters, but they kind of transcend it in their own way. I've apparently really enjoyed the franchise, at least enough to where when I'm watching, I'm like, oh yeah, then this is going to happen. And there weren't as many surprises, which is something this movie is good at doing, is they'll fake out the audience, or you'll think, no way is this going to happen, or is that character going to die? And that's getting context as an adult for something I hadn't seen since the 90s was cool too, where MI1 comes on, I go, Emilio Estevez is in this movie, and I got to relive that whole trip, which I won't say in case someone's just now going to like, they love MI7, they're watching them, they're going to go back through them, but
at this point, it's way too late. It's like that's been out of the bag for a long time.
Maybe Blockbuster's been backlogged and they can't get it. The rental,
like Hollywood Video, all that stuff.
Yeah, sorry, you have a 22-year wait for this film. But no, basically, at various points throughout the franchise, they let you know the stakes are real, and sometimes people don't come back, and that's smart to start it off. And that's happened looking back a few times. And
Mm-hmm.
it's one of my problems with a lot of like Marvel movies, or there's certain franchises where there aren't stakes and there's certain franchises where there are. And when the blip happened and people thought everyone really disappeared, and I was going, they didn't kill half their hot actors from this franchise.
Right.
But then some people do die, but then they get resurrected in a new way or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This is one where like there are stakes and they are actually, and you know that the main character is not going to die. So people have theorized that he might die in the next one and it might get handed off. I don't think that's going to happen, but um you know that the big bomb's not going to go off and the world won't end. But there are times where they don't succeed in the impossible mission, or it goes south, or it turns out it was a double fake or whatever. So I like that about these movies. That's part of why I was so invested in this one, because I'm into it. And then this one, to me, as far as action goes, like these are the best ratings I've seen on a blockbuster in a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure there's some exceptions or some things I'm not thinking of, but any Marvel movie, other Mission Impossibles, James Bonds, whatever, these Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, Letterboxd, these scores are really good.
Mm-hmm.
And same for me. So I'm going to have a lot of nice things to say about it. But that's kind of what I'm bringing into the experience before I got to the theater and had the theater experience.
No, I mean, for me, like I have been a huge fan of this franchise. Like I said, the first one, very similar to you. It was a VHS that I owned, and it was one of three that I had on replay a lot in my room whenever I wanted to watch a movie. It was this, Jurassic Park, or the '89 Batman. It was like those are the movies that I would constantly rewatch and put in all the time. So when I did my own rewatch, the first one was something that I just knew from beginning to end, just instinctively. I was like, all right, I remember this, I remember that. It wasn't one of those things where I went back and was like, oh, I don't remember that happening. The rest of the movies, I had revelations like that, where it's just like, oh, I forgot that happened there, or I forgot this happened there, this and that. But it's just such enjoyable action blockbuster type of movies, you know, and it is also one of the few franchises that started off as a pure espionage movie that really converted itself into a hybrid of espionage slash crazy action blockbuster. And especially now with this recent iteration, they went full on action, you know, in your face blockbuster, and not in a bad way, not in like the Michael Bay way where it's like nothing but explosions in your face and drone shots and here and there like that. Like these were a lot of things that happened that were very grounded in a certain aspect, but also had a lot of meaning to it. Like it usually led to something, or it was an effect or cause of something that happened. But yeah, it's been one of those franchises where it's been awesome to see like the new characters get introduced, who's coming back, who's not. Obviously there's a lot of speculations about certain characters that didn't return and like why didn't they return and this and that, and we can get into that the more we talk about this movie. But going into this movie, and the first time I saw it, I didn't know that was the movie I was going to see. Because the way the screening was set up, it was kind of like a mystery summer blockbuster movie that they wanted people to check out for the first time. When I found out it was Mission Impossible, I literally like lost my mind. I was like, holy shit. I'm like, I'm seeing this now? That's perfect. You know, I was afraid it was going to be like Transformers or something like that. And I was like, no, Mission Impossible. I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's get it. And getting surprised in that way and just seeing the movie play out, I was like, wow, this is it felt familiar, but it also felt very different, because like I said, this is one of the few, this is a transition where, and I think you and I had a conversation about this in the last episode, where the action and the blockbuster action seems to be taking more precedence in a lot of these movies these days, because you got to get the audience's attention going. You got to keep them like interested, invested, and all that. If you going back to the other Mission Impossible movies, there was a lot of dialogue. There was a lot of planning, a lot of like the whole espionage aspects of it. So this is one of the ones where they kind of did a little switch, where it's like full on action. And the action sequences would last literally like 30 minutes. And it would just be like one thing after another, but building into something, right? Or, you know, kind of climaxing the way it's supposed to. And it's one of those things where it's like a thrill ride where you're just like in your seat clutching, the armrest, just like, when is this gonna end? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, oh my god, he's not gonna get out of this, this and that. And it was just so thrilling in that way. And it's interesting to see how the franchise has progressed since the first one, because if you compare the very first one to where we are now, totally different, tone wise and everything. But it also shows you the progression of the character of Ethan Hunt too, where you have this older guy, who's seen a lot, done a lot, but he could still like mix it up, and he could still like really get into it. And you see like how, even though a lot of the main focus is on the partnerships that he's bonded with, the friends that he's created and the team that he's kind of like, had with him for a long time, how that still plays a very important part. You also start to see him doing things on his own, where he's just like, you know what? A lot of these things that are involving people that I care about are now kind of like turning out to be negative and result in bad things. Maybe I just need to do this myself.
The thing is, the closer you get to someone gets to you, the harder it is to keep them alive.
Right.
That's a great line from one of the movies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is one of the ones.
Things.
Yeah, like this is
loss.
Mm-hmm. It's like definitely one of the ones that you kind of actually see it, and you see how it is affecting him, because basically the whole movie, it starts off with like the past haunting him and coming back, and then he has to deal with. We learn a lot about Ethan in this movie, more so than we did before, and how he kind of joined the whole IMF team, and all that. It's just like, wow, it's like, okay, we're actually learning all this stuff, and now he's kind of dealing with the repercussions of it all. And it was just such a fun ride, and seeing it for the second time, now fully finished and fully all that, it's still the same enjoyment I had from the first time around. It's just a little bit more polished, and I liked how I got to see it this time around, and it made me appreciate a lot of the action sequences a lot more, just to see how it all turned out in the end. Story wise, I do have a little some gripes here and there. I do feel like the action parts did take over too much of the movie, where the story kind of took a small backseat, where it didn't feel like a true Mission Impossible movie. But I feel like when the second one comes out, maybe things will change, and that will change my my feeling of this one. Once you see the bigger picture reveal, like once the whole thing ends out and concludes and all that. So that's my initial thoughts and all that. What were your feelings and thoughts about the movie as you were watching it and all that?
Well, in a two-parter, normally the first part is the one that has more plot and build up, or like there's that problem where a lot of superhero movies for years, where the first hour and a half was like, how did they get this way?
It's like set
the
up.
last half hour was them trying out their new powers. It was like, I just wanted to see the powers. That's all.
Yeah.
This one didn't have that problem, and I think it'd be interesting if it flipped it. But I could kind of see more context, maybe flashbacks to when he was younger. I'm not sure about that, but like I could see some more story in the next one. I could also see it be 2-hour mission underwater or something, the way it ends. Like, we're doing it. I think on this one, the bad guy I actually found very compelling. I know some people were like a little confused by it, or questioning like how authentic it felt. There's always something kind of silly about these movies, and there's something kind of self-aware about them. They feel like the Fast movies in a certain way, to where it's just like action for action's sake, but there's something more clever about the writing of them and how it's set up. And it's less like, just a kid playing with cars and be like, all right, now you're going to fly to the moon. Now you're going to go underwater, whatever. There's a lot more. It's more densely set up. And they're kind of funny, but they're also taking themselves seriously at the same time. I really like the bad guy. I didn't love how the bad guy was personified with a couple of the villains, but now the name is Palm Clementov. Is that the actress's name?
Clementieff, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Amazing.
Oh my God, she was so good.
Baddies in any Hollywood villain history, like right up there with it. Like I'm gonna remember that character the same way I remember Jaws, Odd Job, etc. like classic, legendary, amazing. Every time we're on screen, Buddy and I was like high five, like, what is this happening? The
And
other actor,
she's so badass too, because like we've been so used to seeing her as Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy. It's so nice to finally see her, you know, outside of that character and outside of the whole crazy prosthetic makeup and all that, and just seeing her be her. And she's such a badass in this movie. So good.
you're enough of a Guardians fan. I'm not shocked that you knew about that. I did not know until I looked her up afterward that was Mantis. I was like,
Yeah.
Because also this was the makeup and everything was very different than anything
Yeah.
I've seen her in before. But she's apparently a more diverse actor. I kind of thought it was maybe somebody who's like good at martial arts and they hire them to do a weird thing. No, she could do the damn thing and dramatically trained and all that. The other actor, the last name's Morales, but I didn't really love that bad guy as much. I'm curious. I want more there.
Yeah.
And I also am curious more on the backstory because it was interesting. Kind of out of the blue, you just hear, oh, here's Ethan Hunt's canon event, and here's what happened, and it kind of made sense, and it wasn't very colored in. So there's some vagueness there that maybe part 2 will explain all that, or maybe it won't. I'm not really mad about that. I would rather, if this was a 3-hour and 20-minute movie and all they added was 40 more minutes of dialogue, I wouldn't have loved this movie more if they had just done more exposition. I really liked the action scenes in this one more than I think any other Mission Impossible movie I've seen. There's a couple parts that are so ridiculous they're hard to believe, but there's a lot of it that the benefit, just like the John Wick movies, the benefit of actually doing the action scene is you don't have to have these unrealistic cuts and too much CGI and things are so unbelievable. And I think in general, Hollywood has a problem once they start doing CGI. They go, okay, but what if we made this guy super orange? What if we made the train so green but add purple or whatever? And it's like, okay, now it's just I'm so out of the moment because it doesn't look like anything. A lot of these scenes look like that is exactly what that would look like, and the intensity of it is what it would be like to be on that motorcycle and looking at Tom Cruise, and you're like, are you really going to do this? Which I'm sure some people were asking him on set. It's like, there's no way this guy's about to pull this off. I love that about the practical effects, especially with Tom Cruise's career. And then this movie in general is about there's technology and how we can't rely on it, and we instead need to actually do the damn thing ourselves, get our hands dirty. And there's something cool and a little meta about that. And I wouldn't be shocked if somebody, put that together with the Tom Cruise thing of it all. Like, what if instead of we're not allowed to rely on technology anymore, what would happen? And Tom Cruise would be the biggest movie star, and him and Keanu Reeves would be the ones holding it down because they're the ones willing to do the damn work and not rely only on CGI.
Yeah.
So overall, I don't know if it's my favorite. It might be. I kind of I'm planning on rewatching it soon and going back to the theater. It's a long one, so I need to find the right night or a rainy night or something like that. Definitely worth a theater viewing, though. This maybe more than any of them, and they're all theater movies. This one, incredible. Biggest sound system you can find, biggest screen you can find.
Yep.
And that's kind of how I'll think of this movie, is it affected me more than the others. I think I was more enthralled by it. And there's rarely where you get this many movies in a franchise where there aren't more duds. It's kind of like Fast 2 or Tokyo Drift, whatever. Like there's early dud, and then they kind of course correct. But then there's a few duds later on in the franchise.
Yeah.
Mission Impossible so far, some people say MI2 is a dud. I rewatched it. I thought it was great, but it was just weird compared to the other ones. This, we've got 6 hits in a row now, and or I guess 6 of 7. If you say 2 is a dud, they're pretty damn good.
Oh yeah.
Even the ones that are too blockbustery or too silly or too absurd are still really entertaining blockbuster films. And this one I think rises above that. I honestly think it is a good movie. I don't think it's going to get Best Picture consideration the way that we were talking about maybe Maverick would have last year. I don't think it's going to be in those talks at all because it's even more genre.
Yeah.
But give it every visual effects, practical effects, sound design, all that kind of stuff. You could just hand them those Oscars, and I'm not going to be mad about it today.
It's funny because they've been having this conversation about should we start recognizing stunt people at the Oscars and all that. Now, with a movie like this, I can actually see Tom Cruise getting nominated
and Keanu Reeves
and
for John Wick 4.
for like
Amy, you just have two superstars duking it out. And there's 3 guys no one's ever seen before that kind of look like Matt Damon or whatever.
Yeah, like could you imagine? Like that would be so phenomenal. It's because again, movies like this where and you know, the benefit of seeing what I saw back earlier this year is that I really get to see how much of Tom Cruise really did a lot of the stuff, and he really did a lot of the stuff, which is at his age blows my mind still. But it's not only him too. It's like I agree with you, Palm Clementieff, great standout in this movie, like huge standout. My second one, or the one I would consider to be the first standout for me, was Haley Atwell. Haley Atwell is, oh my God, Pickpocket is so phenomenal. Like she is in the Marvel universe.
For what it's worth, but I'm just trying to remember which character that is. That's the new female lead, right?
The new female lead, yeah, Grace.
Amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
And again, people who are familiar with the MCU know her as Peggy Carter. She is the love interest of Captain America. You know, if you saw Doctor Strange, she was the British Captain America that they killed off and all that. So I've known her for a while, and I always thought that she was a pretty good actress, but I never seen enough of her work. I didn't expect that she could be an action star like this. And, you know, the way I see how things are progressing, I wouldn't be surprised if there were to ever be a passing of the torch, I could totally see her.
Saying this, dude.
Yeah, yes. I could, especially the way the movie ended too, because I think at this point, I think we're safe to kind of go into spoilers at this point. We'll just go ahead and dive in. The way the movie ended was, you know, basically Ethan knew what he had to do, but he also knew that he had to do it solo. So he basically told her, find this guy, tell him that you understand that he has something for you and that you accept. And basically that's what she did. Now we are to assume that she's now part of the IMF kind of conglomerate team, whatever you want to call. And she may get integrated into that. And then she could possibly be now the next new agent who might be the one hunting down Ethan or whatever the case is, or who knows what's going to happen in the second one. We could speculate later on about that. But I could totally see how she can now be like the next focus moving forward, because she is just so good. And she definitely showed her chops in this movie. And yeah, the things that I really knew that stood out for me action wise is, and a lot of people now are kind of there's kind of like a little backlash about the whole car chase scene that takes place in Rome, because like, oh, we already saw this, like Fast X just did something similar like this, you know. But I argue that, you know, Mission Impossible, they did it better. You know, it was, and seeing what I saw, you know, Tom and Haley were in the car, like maybe 90% of the time that this was all happening. They weren't driving, obviously, because they had a stunt driver behind them, which is so fascinating to see, where it's this guy behind them, kind of elevated so he could see everything. And there's like a cutout for where the camera's going to be and where he is. And obviously they kind of, you know, green screen all that later on, and they kind of, you know, digitally erase it. But basically, this dude is driving like recklessly and doing all these stunts while they're in the car acting it out as if they're the ones doing it. So this is all really happening like live as they're filming everything. And that was fascinating. And then the train scene, the train sequence, you know, when they're trying to escape the falling train. In the cut I saw, that's where the extra 10 minutes was, because that was actually much longer.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was totally much longer. Yeah.
It was more intensive. Like more.
Yeah.
That would be, because that was honestly a bit panic attacky of anything in it. And so intense, but it wasn't that long. I could have, when it was over, I was like, okay, it's really over. Thinking maybe it could have gone longer. But at the same time, it felt like they were going to die for about however long that was, 8 minutes or so.
Yeah.
That was intense. Okay.
I think that's that's the feedback the studio got about that, because I think hearing people talk about it at the screening I went to, they were saying that there were certain action scenes that felt too long. And I think a lot of them were complaining that the train scene was a bit too long, because literally
already long as hell. I want to time it next time I go back, but when you go start from the motorcycle, to the train. But if you include him chasing the train with the motorcycle, we might be at 45 minutes. We might be more, like closer to an hour, because that is a chunk of the movie. And then there's action happening on the train, and somebody gets, has a negotiation on the train, then they cut back to the motorcycle or whatever. You miss Tom Cruise for a little bit, and then he pops in. But still, if you include, like, if the train is that moment, it's not like they do flashbacks or anything. It's just that train's going.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm gonna say 45 minutes to an hour if I had to guess. But it was so intense too, I lost track of time.
Yeah, I won't be surprised. So that right before they started that whole sequence, that's when I ran to the bathroom, because I knew that was coming. So I'm like, all right, I have to go, because I know I don't want to miss this, right? Because this is going to be like the climax of the movie right here. Yep. So I went during the scene where they were kind of having the plan, the discussion about the train, like, this is what we're going to do, this and that. And Haley's like, what? You're going to do that and do what? And, right before they got into the whole, you see him now on the motorcycle going through the woods and everything. Like, that's when I took my break. But yeah, I won't be surprised if it was really that long. But I'm also I'm glad that they did cut out some of the inside train sequences, especially, like I said, when the train is like falling off because the bridge was blown up. There was so much more of just seeing Tom Cruise and Haley Atwell jumping from side to side, climbing.
Were there more train cars, or was it just longer in each car?
It's longer in each car. Much longer.
That makes sense. Yeah. I was like, how many levels? Because it felt like a video game. Like, now you have to figure out how to get past the piano.
Totally, 100%. Yeah. You like
that was like cool, but I would have liked to see more cars, but I'm not sure I could have handled it, each one being longer. And there's a couple moments I go like, oh, he jumped real fast. Like, he just went boom, boom kind of thing. But also, what are we going to do? Literally, like, it's going to be fine. Like, no one wants to actually see that.
No,
it gets me the Sports Center highlights of the train sequence. That's essentially what we got.
Right. Yeah, because it gets to the point where it's just like, all right, like, this is like enough. Like, this is too much happening to an individual or two people. Like, it shouldn't be this way. Like, the kitchen car was much longer in the original cut that I saw. Okay. And like to the point where we saw the explosion, but there was a build up to that explosion. Like, and you're seeing them trying to figure out, like, can we shut off the fire? No, we can't. And then it's all that stuff. No.
And then because that was a favorite, but it was also one of the more daunting ones, because I'm like, your feet are covered in grease, hot grease. There's a fire and grease. Like, get out. And then they're jumping and running. And I'm like, wipe your shoes off at some point.
Right.
I had greasy shoes. No, I slipped immediately. Okay. But you don't need to get into the actual logistics of the whole thing. Like, what if we took this tray of ice and then added it to a gun or whatever? Yeah.
Okay. It was a bit too much, and the piano car was also it's longer too, as they're trying to figure out how to get out of that situation, because leading up into the point where they figured out that the piano was about to collapse on them definitely took much longer than what we got here in the final cut. So again, I'm glad they cut these things shorter, because it moved the pacing was improved because of all that. But the story beats were all the same. I think what one thing that they did that I appreciated more was that it was a little bit more clear in the beginning as to who this person that Ethan knew that got shot by the main villain that we later on see that pops up, right? S.I. Morales, who plays Gabriel, the main villain. At first I was confused, like, is this lady the pickpocket person now, or was it someone similar? Or because they kind of look the same, so it was like a little confusing. But they definitely clarified it more so in this final cut, which I appreciated, because that was the one thing I was very confused about. And I remember, they give you your survey and they ask you, what are some of the things you didn't like? I'm like, I don't know who the hell that lady was in the beginning. Like, is that someone I'm supposed to know? Is that Haley Atwell now? Is it, a relative? Like, because they look the same. I'm like, I was confused. So I definitely felt like they clarified that a whole bunch. But to touch base on the villain himself, like, I feel like he's going to be realized more so, I think, in the second one, because I feel like there's still more there. Yeah. Because I feel like we were missing some things here. and he was very robotic too. Like he was so busy following everything the AI was telling him and kind of like foreseeing him to do that you didn't really feel like he had his own personality at all. He was just kind of like a vessel, right? So I have a feeling we're probably going to get to see more of his truer self maybe in the second one. I don't know.
What blows my mind is, I don't know if you heard, but Nicholas Hoult was originally cast in that role.
Yeah.
I could see, here's my theory. One, I literally was talking to someone and they were joking like Nicholas Hoult could be Tom Cruise's kid. And if you look at him side by side, there's some weird version where instead of it being the backstory of his tormentor, it's actually like, oh, they got a kid from somebody or whatever, and they do some Indiana Jones kind of like retcon a kid in there. I don't think that would have been it. My gut, and I'm gonna speak crassly because it's just like the way that people talk about AI and computers, and I'm not trying to further a stereotype, but if you want to look at like someone who says like they're on the spectrum or something like that, if you wanted to find someone who was more of like an automaton personality or more just logic based, and they are essentially like the human avatar of the computer program, I could see a Nicholas Hoult working really well, or someone who isn't showing big emotions, low emotions, high emotions, whatever. So I could almost, I'm just saying, like, I could see a writer's room where they're like, that's the kind of acting that we want to get for this role. I don't know if it really works if you don't explain why, and maybe the second one will.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's not an explanation, and sometimes people with their big bad guys go Philip Seymour Hoffman and full intensity, and it's amazing. And other times they go more subdued, like we were talking about with Jonathan Majors as Kang, said Krang, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And they go so subtle that it's actually really creepy also. It's almost like this was kind of going creepy. The person wasn't necessarily famous enough to be enthralling just by looking at him, like Javier Bardem or Rami Malek in some Bond villains. Christoph Waltz, for example. But if they add some details, because the real question, there's a couple things. They figured out where the entity originates from, what went down, which I don't know if you want to get into all that and your thoughts on it or explain it at all. But essentially, one of the big questions is, how did this person talk to AI, and who's recruiting it? Did he actually start it? Is it, that's kind of one of the questions that I have that seems explained during the movie with the scene with the CIA director, I'll say. Maybe that's not their actual title, but I'm honestly not sure what is communicating with who and how who got recruited, especially that little team of villains. Are they actually henchmen for the AI? That's kind of how it seems. So, but that's what you need a face for the bad guy too if you're going to punch something.
Right. That's what it felt like too. Like, especially when they were in that kind of party scene, the club scene, where it was apparently like the AI that created that event so that everyone can meet and whatever the case is. So it felt like everyone involved, especially the main dude, Gabriel, he's just a minion of the AI. That's what it feels like.
Is he being paid? Like, is the assumption that the AI would say, we know this guy, we know his weakness, we know we could wipe out his bank account or his family or something. And if the AI is literally weaponized, it could reach out via email or text. It could chat GPT a few texts, and he goes, oh, I'd love to work for you. You're going to help me with my mission.
Right.
He's being played or lied to. That'd be interesting to see that character have a turn where he's like, wait, this thing doesn't have my best interest at heart. Right. Part of the question is, if this thing's going to destroy the world, why are you on its team unless you just also want to be in a world that's destroyed? Or you think you're going to wear the crown and the AI, like you're going to be the vice president to president like, AI? Like, what's the plan?
You're going to be like King Conan on the throne, and then like AI is just controlling everything, and you're just like on the top of the mountain, like, this is my world.
Or to get back to my speech or my misspeak, he's Krang. He's the actual like the body, and the AI is just controlling him or something.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
what's your next step of your plan, bro?
Right. Yeah. I do feel like we're definitely going to get more explanation about that in the second one. Now, we did get a glimpse of how they communicate in this one. If you remember, on the train sequence, when Palm Clementieff kind of goes on there and like gets him out of this whatever luggage he's in. He's like lying down in this thing, and he has this big electronic mask on, and you can hear like the electronic blurbs and all that. It's like his face is like, Oh, like he's been in.
That's what that was.
Yeah, he's like in the virtual reality or something like that, where the AI was like communicating with him or
I thought it was
something.
like a sleep mask or something to make it less tormented that he's been hiding in a suitcase in a trunk or whatever. A
I mean,
trunk
that
in a
could be
trunk.
true too, but I do think that's where.
That just was your assumption.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that's what it felt like to me. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not impossible. I was also imagining like a Wizard of Oz possibility in the next one,
Hmm.
where essentially like I don't know that it would actually be, Christoph Waltz is back there or something
Sure.
dancing and like, oh, you found me.
Like,
But
oh,
you could see like imagine an AI and what face they use or something. I would love it if it was like Christopher Walken or something silly like that. But just like a floating head in the video
yeah.
screen talking. I imagine emails and text, but sure, throw on a AI generated face on the thing. Why not? Um, but overall, if the bad guy is the entity, how would you rate it for your? I'm not saying rank all of them, but like, how does it rate for you? Like, were you in on it? Did it get you? Did it
As
give you
far
the
as like
willies?
as far as like villain is concerned in this franchise,
Mission Impossible, yeah, or in general, like, how did you like it as a villain?
um, TBD. I feel like right now it's TBD because like right now I
Okay,
do feel it was a little bit on the weaker side. For me, hands down, the best villain in this whole franchise was Philip Seymour Hoffman because I felt like
I agree.
he was just batshit nuts and very relentless and all that, and he didn't give a fuck. Like he was gonna do what
Yeah,
he's gonna do and all that, and get what he wants. Like this guy, like I felt like he was just following orders, right? And he was just automaton. He was just like this like robot and all that. Now, again, whatever happens in the second one could change my mind about the whole thing if he does something else. Honestly, the character of Paris, that was the character name that Palm Clementieff was playing.
right.
She
Thank
was
you.
a better villain than this guy because she was
Right.
just doing all the dirty work and all that. And I love her maniacal kind of like laugh as she's like chasing them down in the streets of Rome and all that. I just thought that was like really crazy. But yeah, I wouldn't say like this is one of my favorites for sure. But again, that could totally change when the next one comes out.
I think part of the problem, Bond villains, they go very absurd. They
Yeah.
look monstrous sometimes.
Hmm.
The main henchman, like a Jaws, is going to be like gigantic with braces and
Yeah.
like. But there's also something weird about that too, where it makes it in a way less realistic, or like there's something kind of sad that every single one of them has some deformity or
Hmm.
disability or whatever. And then I'm thinking of literally all the way through, and there's a few exceptions of those, but often like it's where we get the Doctor Evil stereotype, or archetype or whatever
Right.
for
Right.
Doctor Evil. How absurd it is. Mission Impossibles are sometimes too realistic, to where it's just a guy who's acting like some other guy, and
Hmm.
it's a guy they work with or whatever. Um, Sometimes those are more compelling and more convincing, but less entertaining. I was actually really into the AI one because part of it, my imagination was activated, and there were times I'd go, oh, this is possible. If someone
Yeah.
thought, and if they're not aware of like where we're at with AI and where we might be in 5 years, 10 years, they might think it's absurd. It will sound really dumb to like my mom or grandma. They're gonna be like,
Hmm.
well, that doesn't make any sense. How would a text message set off a nuclear bomb? That's insane.
Right.
Where would the man on the other end be? But one of the scenes where it got me, when the CIA was retyping their digital files on
Oh
the
yeah.
paper,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, right, everything is screwed." To
Yep.
where when Simon Pegg is in a Tesla, I go, "Bro, get out the Tesla. That's screwed." Like if things are able to communicate to each other and this thing can transmit from one to another, you could ruin everything and no one's pressing a damn button anywhere. There's no
Yeah.
bad guy, and oh, we just got to go get the guy who's making the computers. That's one of the weird things about like there's a camera system that can monitor every security camera in the world, but you have to have eyeballs on all of those, or
Right.
the AI like going and you're like going through video after video.
Hmm.
But nowadays, you could just have the AI doing all of that, and that the additional element. Now we have to go more into practical effects, and Tom Cruise really has to go, well, can't use any of our normal systems, can't communicate with anyone. We've got 5 people in this room we trust, and one of them's new, and guys, I don't know, someone, and they're like drawing out the plan again, like
Right.
the old days.
Right.
I thought that was really compelling.
Yeah.
Not just because of how creepy the bad guy was, but how they had to respond to it.
Yeah.
It was a
Hmm.
more insidious bad guy than we've seen before. Whereas normally it's oh, we get a gun and we shoot Philip Seymour Hoffman if he walks by, and the guy has to sleep in a bed somewhere and get sleep, right? Like there is no refuge against this one, and it really could destroy everything. Like that.
Yeah.
That's like one of those a doomsday person is going to be worried about that with where we're at in AI, and there's conversations about that since ChatGPT's taken off.
Sure.
On a higher note of like, should we be more careful and worried about that? This is kind of what that might actually look like in reality.
Which is brilliant too, because obviously the script was done way before all this stuff started like coming into fruition, right? So you could kind of see that this is exactly where things were leading to, and people are aware of that. And this is like an example of like, well, this could possibly happen if we aren't careful and all that. And I do agree with you. It does add a certain level of intrigue and difference in this movie because in essence it's a faceless villain. It's like it's something that is just there that has the possibility to do so many things, but we can't predict it. We don't know when it's going to happen, and we can't trust anything because we are so reliant now on everything that it can touch. So I do like the fact that they had to explain that, oh, we have to go now analog, and then you had like Kittredge and all that. By the way, how awesome was it to see Kittredge come back from the first movie and just seeing him and Ethan face to face again, and you could see there's still bad blood there and all that. So good. So good. But yeah, how he had to like build a new kind of surveillance system out of just old school technology and all that. Like I thought that was so smart and so brilliant. So yeah, you're right. I do appreciate it for a lot of those things. And I'm sure, again, I keep saying this, when we get into the second one, I'm sure a lot more stuff is going to be realized and more come into fruition. Who knows? Maybe there is like an ultimate mastermind above it all, because you're right. How did this guy get in contact with the AI? Unless it's the AI who truly just reached out to him and all that. Or is there like another person that's kind of behind it all, that kind of like started things going?
Well, you've seen it twice now, and honestly, I remember spending most of the movie wondering where it came from. Did not Carrie Elwes Ewell's character, who's the head of CIA intelligence some American intelligence group, didn't he say that they started it and then it started thinking for itself essentially, and they were surprised, and then it went rogue? Something like that, or did they not start it and they were just aware of it? I honestly can't remember.
I think it's something that, if I remember correctly, it's something that they were aware of, that they let go for a long time, and then it became sentient. So that's why Kittredge is like all about, well, we need to get it so we could weaponize it for ourselves, before the other person does. But it was one of those things where it's like, it was something that they've been aware of for a long time, but they kind of just let it go until now it's gotten to the point where it's like, oh, now it's trouble. That was another scene, actually. I'm glad you pointed that out. That was a scene that was much longer in the original cut, too. We got to see more interactions between the other members in that room, especially and I forget the lady's name. She was in Game of Thrones and in Obi-Wan. Indira Verma. Very well-known actress and a very, very small bit part, but in the original cut, she had more stuff to say in that conference room. So I was a little bit disappointed about that, but I think it's also one of those things where you got to get this, you got to keep it moving, right? In order to not lose people. So that was my understanding about the whole thing. So again, very fascinating and intriguing stuff. I do like the concept behind it all. Again, we'll see what happens in part 2. But one thing we definitely have to bring up, and I'm sure to a lot of fans of the franchise, to their disappointment, is Rebecca Ferguson, Ilsa Faust, and her unfortunate passing in this movie. I know the first time I saw it hit me hard. I was like, no, they're not doing that. And then here they did it. And then seeing it for the second time again, it still hit me the same way. I think it's safe to say that when she came into the whole franchise, I believe it was 2 movies ago or 3 movies ago, she's become like a huge fan favorite. And I've been seeing a lot of like comments online leading to the release of this movie. It's like, they better not kill Rebecca Ferguson. They better not. And I'm like sitting there, I'm just like, oh, oh man, you just wait. But I don't know. How did that affect you? Because I love her character so much.
Before we go on, just real quick,
yeah.
FYI, Dinlinger in the movie explains to Gabriel that the U.S. government stole the AI and uploaded the prototype in a trial to sabotage the Sevastopol. So
Right.
they
Okay.
stole it, but we don't know who actually created it or who's behind it. So
okay.
That's more, yeah. I also like that you can't trust any government. Everyone might be getting misinformation. And there's times where the IMF team is hacking someone else's security cam, but then it turns out their equipment is being hacked by the AI. And so it's like, oh, you can't trust anyone except the people you actually trusted before today.
Right.
That was an impressive aspect of it as well.
Yeah.
That scene honestly didn't really bother me. I think basically everyone is expendable in this franchise. I wouldn't be surprised if even at some point somebody like if Ving Rhames died in the next one. Because one, I'm not saying I want him to. I think he's amazing for the franchise. But if at some point he says, pay me more, they say no, or he says, hey, I'm tired. Thank you for the money. Pay me out. And I'd like to make my way out. This franchise has been really good at letting you know that people die. If they don't, then what's the point of any of these missions at all? I like when they do that in movies. Did I want it to be this character more than another one? If we're going to play a game of Survivor, I'm not sure if I vote for her, but at the end of the day, I go into any movie knowing that basically anyone except Ethan Hunt is on the chopping block every time. At this point, I don't know if you get rid of Simon Pegg. He's like a fan favorite and the audience surrogate.
Yeah.
At this and they had that role in early. That was a fun thing rewatching him. The Simon Pegg character, that role was there in earlier movies, but it wasn't the same guy, right? It wasn't the same character even.
Yeah.
But then they get Simon Pegg, and he's in everyone after that because he's a scene stealer, and he's kind of just counterbalances Tom Cruise's character, so there's no real, competition. Dwayne the Rock Johnson and Vin Diesel problem or whatever weird energy. It's a perfect compliment. I think that's he and Ethan Hunt are the only characters I would be actually bothered if they killed off. Am I saying I wanted her to die? No, not at all. But it makes the movie more affecting, and the fact that it was affecting kind of makes you think like you don't want her to die, and that's part of what makes it work. But that makes it a more impactful and, in my mind, more successful film and more successful franchise overall because of scenes like that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's just. It shows you the testament of how strong of a character she was when you have people kind of affected that way or like kind of saying like they better not kill her off, because again, she has become such a huge favorite. And I think it also goes to the whole thing about at the end of the day, Ethan has always wanted to be or at least have somewhat of a normalcy to his life, right? We saw that and again, it's great watching all of these movies recently, seeing how he really tried to formulate a life for himself outside of the agency. He tried to get married and then that didn't work out, and then he tried to still do, now he had to like protect his ex-wife because now she is a target. It's kind of like the whole Spider-Man situation where it's like, be careful when your identity goes out there because now everyone you love is going to be a target. And, Ethan was kind of like a victim to that. Now, when you introduced Elsa, she is another kind of agency person, right? From a different agency, does the same stuff that he does. So in a way, they're kind of on the same playing field, and they know and understand their risks more. So I could see that being very much more of a romantic relationship possibility for Ethan, because it's like, well, I know you understand what the life I live, and I understand the life you live, and we could kind of understand that, and we could kind of work with that. And you see it too, where it's like, there's a scene here in this movie where they're all plotting and trying to figure out the whole situation with getting the key and all that. And they're in Venice, right? And, Ethan's on the balcony and she's there. And she's like, this is the first time I've been in Venice. And he's like, me too. And they have this like the really sweet moment together where it's like, oh, it's a small sense of normalcy for them before they start doing what they have to do and all that. And we see them on the boat in the canal leading to the party. They're holding hands. They're looking at each other all lovingly. or not realizing that that's probably gonna be the last like intimate moment they're gonna be able to share together until her untimely death. But she went out with like a champ, though. She went out fighting, which is the way you expect her to. But I also do love the whole, well, you have to make a choice. You save her, then this is gonna happen. You save her, and then this is gonna happen. So what's it gonna be, dude? And you're gonna be like, what the fuck? You're gonna make me go through all this? So that was a very clever moment that they kind of formulated there. But Ving Rhames, now, if you remember, he had to leave. He's like, oh, the stuff I gotta do, I gotta be on my own, right? Because or else the AI is gonna track me and all that. So is something gonna happen to him off screen that we don't know about or whatever? That could be a nice little way to kind of segue himself out of the movie if he doesn't come back in the second one.
Or at the very least, he just said, "Hey, y'all, I don't know. I'm not trying to even say anything out loud, but like, there could be something going on in his life where he's like, I don't want to do the running around this time, please." Or they wanted that. I don't know. And he's a legacy character at this point. How many people have been there the whole time? I don't know, but like, and I'm not even saying that if you skipped movies like Kittredge, right?
Yeah,
it's him and Tom.
It's him and Tom ever since the first one. Yeah,
I'm going through that in my head. That's it. I think you don't kill him off unless it's like a final movie and it's really like, even then I honestly don't know that you do. If he's dying in real life or there's something else going on, or if that's what the actor wants, you could do right by him that way. But I don't think you in any way willy-nilly get rid of that guy. You could even do the thing like they did with Paul Walker in the Fast franchise where you go, he's going to go off, he's going to be on a permanent vacation, and you get a postcard every year and you go, oh, look, he's still doing great, everyone. He's alive. He's in the movie. He gets a little cut. But I have no problem with them hiding him out for a whole movie if that's what's best. I have no idea what Ving Rhames wants or any contract negotiation, anything like that. I have no idea. But I think those are the two characters you don't kill off. And in my mind, Simon Pegg as a nerd, all the nerds who love it, it kind of gives it some extra legitimacy. Like this actual creator, artful screenwriter, nerd guy getting in on the franchise helped it not just be some schlocky summer blockbuster crap. In my mind, I think everyone else is it can be expended.
Quickly, Vanessa Kirby as what's her name? The White. What did they call her? The
White Widow.
The White Widow. Yeah, who is the daughter of Vanessa Redgrave's character from the first movie. Brilliant. I love her character too. Her character is so intriguing. I hope we see more of her in the second one too, because I feel like that's not done yet. Obviously, she wasn't able to broker the deal like she was supposed to. So I'm sure there's going to be high stakes for her and still some sort of involvement there. I don't think she'll turn good. I don't want her to, at least. I feel like there's still that intrigue of her still being a kind of a baddie in a way. But I do love the chemistry that she has with Tom Cruise and Ethan Hunt there. I love that. For the second movie, who would you like to see come back from the previous movies? Because obviously there's a possibility. This movie made so much references to movies in the past. This one is more so the first movie. Again, we got Kittredge back. We got the whole sleight of hand thing that Tom did a lot of in the first one, with the disc and all that. Like we saw a lot of that here again in this movie. References here and there to other things. Like, what character would you love to see mention or come back, if possible, in the next one?
I actually had the thought, and it's something because I was reading about it when I saw MI1 again, is Emilio Estevez's character of like, afterward, Tom Cruise apparently said that was one of the biggest mistakes because he wished he could bring Emilio Estevez and that character back. They're buddies, and also it's a great actor. And that was, in a way, he's the Simon Pegg guy.
He was the original Simon Pegg guy. Yeah. And
they didn't replace Simon Pegg they didn't get a good replacement for a couple movies. I was watching the second one. I was like, this guy doesn't have it.
No.
And then at some point, Emilio Estevez is saying, well, it's possible because of the masks and everything. Well, there's no way in hell that that's something you could do in retcon. If they do flashbacks to younger and they can do the de-aging or what they did in Indiana Jones with the AI, I actually wouldn't be mad about flashbacks to younger versions of them, and they're like buddies before, and it's showing them like having a beer, talking or something.
Like when they first started.
Especially if it's difficult to do the CGI with action where it doesn't look very realistic, right?
Yeah.
Or sorry, CGI, AI or de-aging or however they make it look young again. But that would be a good one. And there's a lot of footage of Emilio Estevez. That could be possible.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about in current day, part of the problem, there's so many movies, and I had seen them over the years, and I watched them back to back. I don't really know who's alive and who's dead. Let's pretend everyone's alive.
Sure.
Give me Lawrence Fishburne any day of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
Always down for a good Lawrence Fishburne.
He was only in that one movie, right? And that was it.
That's off of memory. That's it. So far, I'm sorry. There are a couple people who've been in every single movie, and you're gonna hate me for this. I'm so sorry. The Bob Johnson was the voice on tape in every single.
Oh my God!
Wait, actually, hold on. No, I'm so sorry.
That's wrong.
That's the TV show.
That's wrong. I'm so I was gonna say yeah.
This is what I get for doing research in real time. I'm trying to look at a list of characters, and this is somehow I land on the TV shows. My bad.
How about so Angela Bassett. Angela Bassett was like one of like the main CIA people and all that, and obviously we know she's still around because she didn't die off or anything like that. I would love to see her come back. You know, maybe this, especially with the whole deal with Cary Elwes, like kind of being like a backstabber and kind of like a two-timer, and now he's dead. So I could totally see her come back trying to clean up that mess, right? Whatever and all that. We never saw Henry Cavill actually dead, like body-wise dead. So could he have survived that crazy helicopter crash?
I rewatched that movie, and at the end I go, oh, they made it clear this man will never act next to Tom Cruise ever again. Okay, I don't know what happened there, but this dude's super dead. It'd have to be one of those weird ones where they retcon it and they show the camera from the other angle, and it turns out he
jumped out or something.
Right, he jumps out at an angle, because even at the angle I saw, like, unless I'm missing something, he couldn't have even been in like a scuba mask and jump in the water, or it's just like straight down rock blow up. No one would survive a height like that unless he had an airbag suit, which is how you see people retcon stuff like that sometimes.
Right.
So no, I'm going to go ahead and just say I would dislike it if they made it. And that's the other problem, is if you were to, in theory, do the Emilio Estevez was in a mask kind of thing, is then the stakes are no longer high in these movies. Right. Everyone can come back, and that's a problem with fast movies and Game of Thrones. At some point I had that issue. I was like, oh, if people can come back from the dead, then none of the deaths will ever matter again, and none of the ones in the past do, kind of thing. So I actually don't want them to bring back a couple of those people who are, in theory, super dead.
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin's another one of those. We watch him bleed out, and we have a little.
He's done.
Mourn him.
Yeah, he's done. Yeah.
Jeremy Renner. I honestly don't remember how that is.
That's another one, and that's like, I think that was a big question a lot of people had. It's like, where has he been? Like, how come he hasn't come back? Now I know for one of the movies, whether it was the last one or this one, there was like scheduling conflicts. I think he had, right? Now he's
in Marvel World for a lot of this.
Right, exactly. I think there was a time they were gonna make him replace Tom Cruise as like the main character.
Where was that Bourne? I was trying to think through, because he did try that with Bourne for one movie, if I recall.
He did.
Renner.
Yeah.
So I honestly can't remember if I confused that, or if he was going to somehow become Jason Bourne and then do a crossover with Mission Impossible and become Ethan Hunt.
I think they were trying it. I think they were trying it with both series, but it just didn't work out. And I think Tom.
Show. Right. I also think there's some news with Jeremy Renner's personal life, and so if any of this is like blasphemous to what he's been going through, I honestly do not know about that.
Well, right now he's recovering because he had a very bad accident with like I believe it was like a snowplow during last winter, where
snowmobile,
like a snow, like something like that. Yeah, where he got really mangled, and he's recovering. I hear he's doing well. He's recovering well, so he could easily come back to acting anytime soon. But I think, cool. Yeah, but I think with Tom, I think he didn't want to relinquish the lead role in Mission Impossible because he's invested so much in it. So I totally get that. But I could see Jeremy come back as like, because he was like working more in the offices at the last time we
That
saw
would
him.
be actually a beautiful comeback, kind of like Val Kilmer in Top Gun. Not the same thing, different circumstances, but give me an emotional, like, we counted this guy out in real life and in the franchise kind of thing. That could be even just a small something. Have him walk back, and he even, like my last article I'm seeing, he was using a cane. Have him walk in as he is and be like, "We're so glad you're back on the team." Something. A post-credit scene in MI8, right? The only other one I'm going to throw out, actually two, Maggie Q is gone. I don't remember how her character ended.
No, so I'm actually glad you bring her up, because her and was it Reese Davies? What's the other guy that was in the third one?
Jonathan Rhys Meyers.
Rhys Meyers, yeah. Them two were just in that one movie. They're fine. Everyone's fine. You know, the movie just kind of ended with them kind of laughing and, you know, doing that typical Hollywood ending where, oh, we're all having a good time. Maggie Q is, I think, one of the mistakes that they never brought back, because she is like a bona fide action star. I think it was that role that led her to do that TV show, Nikita, that she did for several seasons. And I love her as an actress, and I know she's very capable. I love her even more so than Paula Patton, to be honest with you, who's another one that hasn't come back. But Paula Patton had her moment during that time when that Mission Impossible came out, and then she kind of, like, at least for me, faded away somehow. I don't know what she's doing nowadays, but those are the two that never came back, who are still around, so to speak.
So that's an option in some way, and my understanding is that both those actors could use that part. I don't know where they're at in career or relations with the studio or whatever, but I wouldn't be mad about, even if, especially if it was a there's a version where somebody's saying Ethan Hunt could die and you have a new person take over kind of thing. Especially if it's that, bring back Jeremy Renner, bring back Maggie Q, bring back Jonathan Rhys Meyers, have flashbacks to Emilio Estevez, Alec Baldwin, whatever. Do your whole Star Wars. Do like Emilio Estevez is a Force ghost in MI8, just following him around, being like, "No, you should turn left at the bridge."
Talking to Simon Pegg, like no, don't do it that way. Do it this way.
Animates, recreates. Actually, hear me out.
I think you're
singularity.
I think I like where you're going with this.
It is actually Emilio Estevez.
Oh, yes.
They uploaded Emilio Estevez's consciousness into the AI.
Brilliant.
Tell me that's dumb. Tell me
brilliant.
It's not. It's brilliant.
I love it. Because again, the way he died too, what was it? He got electrocuted in the eye sockets, like something from the elevator,
metal,
right?
Elevator shaft, metal into the eyes, and it had electricity because it was
So what if his soul and essence went into the electronic mainframe,
the machine? Oh yeah, that's how souls work, right? For sure. If you get stabbed in the eye, someone stabs you in the eye with a knife. Now the knife has your soul. Everyone knows that, Renee.
That's it, man. That's how you do it.
That's not what I'm talking about. For the record, that's dumb as hell. But what I said was cool, and what you said was even more badass, but just stupid. If they did that, then that would be the Fast 11 movie.
If this was a Fast and Furious movie, that's how they would have explained it.
But his brain is in the metal. Yeah.
It's all about metal. It's all about
tech geek, and before he died, he uploaded his consciousness, obviously.
See? Yeah. Before that was well known. Yeah, he totally did that. Thumb drive here and there. That's why Ving Rhames had to go off site to recover it. And then
we got to bring back Emilio.
We got to bring back Emilio.
This is for Emilio. Yeah. Exactly. And now I would love Tom Cruise to yell that when he's jumping
Emilio!
This is for you, Emilio. Exactly. That's the only thing that would make this franchise better.
That's hilarious.
Hilarious, absurd references to that.
Oh man, that'll be that'll be the epitome of the franchise.
Instead of yelling Geronimo, yells Emilio.
Emilio.
Exactly. Shea Wiggum's character is the only one I'll say, which he will be because he's in this to the end.
Yeah.
Him as the American agent, and then his buddy too, who had kind of the conscience of the two of them. And Shea Wiggum was we follow orders, and they were asking these questions, which in a way they're audience surrogate as well, asking questions like, okay, but what if we can't trust our government, or what if we trust our government but not their sources because their source could be the bad guy, etc. And at some point they're literally having a little debate. It was cute. These little two buddies being like, well, what do you do then? You don't follow the orders? And he's like, if it's the world versus whatever, like I'm choosing everybody. If it's everybody's dead or everyone alive, I'm choosing everyone alive. What are you talking about? So I would love to see those two be a little Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, just with their little philosophical musings running around the movie. But any movie is always better with Shea Wiggum. Somehow he's never been the front guy on a movie poster. He's just had big roles and small roles, but I need to see him in everything. Every time he shows up with a gun, especially, I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, we're in good hands.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
That I wouldn't be mad if that character became a recurring thing, or maybe I don't want him to join the IMF team because he plays kind of a dummy. But if he was just a brute force guy, or if somehow you had to get rid of Luther and he became I don't know, like a weapons expert or explosions guy or something. I don't know.
Which if you think about it, the team doesn't really have. You have Ethan Hunt, who's like the Swiss Army knife, like he does everything, right? And then you have Simon Pegg, who's kind of like the not strategist, but he's like, he figures out how everything works technology wise. And then you have Luther, who's the code guy. He's the one that kind of deciphers things and programs things and all that. And now you have, Haley is going to be probably more on the IMF team now, like, because she's with Kittredge and all that. So you kind of need like that brute force guy, which the team has been kind of missing, which they don't really have. So that'll be really, really interesting to see there for sure. But I also love the conversation that Shea Wiggum's had with his buddy there about Ethan Hunt, because it was the guy who brought up Ethan Hunt. It's like, because they're like, we always have to chase this guy down and all this and that. It's like, but what if he's doing things the right way? Like what if he's doing it for the greater good and all that?
Framed.
Right. Yeah. And of course, Shay's like, "Wow, you're talking crazy." He's like, "I hate that guy." So as we kind of close out the discussion of this, obviously the second one's going to be coming out. Hopefully, I believe it's next year, or in 2 years from now. I don't know. I mean,
I think it's next year. I'm not sure though, because I think they're currently filming it off.
Right.
Or at least the last thing I checked on.
So at least it'll be nice that we don't have to wait another 5 years like we've been waiting for in between a lot of these movies in the franchise.
June 2024. That might be premature, though, is my guess. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets pushed to Thanksgiving or something.
Right.
Just with everything's going, and then acting, the strikes and all that. Yeah.
So definitely looking forward to the second one and all that for sure. Any final thoughts on this? How would you rank? I know it might be premature, but how would you rank this among all the Mission Impossible movies?
There's so many different ways to look at these. Of which one did you have the most fun at? Which is your favorite one? Which one's the best? Which one's the most influential? Which would be MI1 in its own way, and then another way MI4, because that's kind of when I'm going. It was a nice thing to do is the retrospective, going back through them. MI1 is its own Brian De Palma movie. MI2 is this John Woo bastardization of what the franchise would become.
Almost killed the franchise.
MI3 is more in line with MI1, and also a transition. But starting at MI4, it's really what we're doing now, the tone. The giant, I'm going to jump off of a waterfall into a helicopter. It's going to do a backflip, and then I have to land. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to decode a computer or whatever, right? Like that stuff where it's big stunts. And of those, it's my favorite. And rewatching them, I remember having my mind blown in the previous one when he's on the airplane. That felt small after seeing this one, because I actually didn't finish my marathon until the last two were after this movie. That movie, I was like, oh, this felt like the most intense action movie ever. Not after seeing this one, and then maybe because it was on a small screen too. I don't know.
Yeah,
but that helped in that regard. I would probably say MI1 is technically my favorite. I've seen it so many times, and it holds up more as like a whole movie, not just the action and relying on the crazy not effects, but like stunts. So, but I think this might be the most intense and funnest one. So if I want a roller coaster ride, I'll watch MI7. And if I want to have like a nice cinema experience of like a whole cohesive movie, I might watch MI1 again. I was really surprised going back through it, how clever the writing is in MI1. And all throughout the franchise. And I actually had a little debate with a friend who they're trying to do those movies are dumb, but they're entertaining. I was like, they're not actually dumb. My case in point was to write the train sequence. You have to write how we got there and how you got where it's going. And there's all these moving parts on the train and on top of the train. And the world's best chess player is going to have a really hard time figuring out how you get Ethan Hunt from here to here to here to here to here.
Right.
And then to do it convincingly and when the stakes are that high and with the action being so amazing. Because, yeah, of course, he could have boarded the train, but no, something had to go wrong because the AI messed up their plan. Now they've got to improvise. And that's what made it so intense and exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone else is saying, like, how ridiculous those movies are. And I do hold them in a category above, a whole class above the Fast 10 movies or any of that real
for sure.
Like The Plane or Geostorm or just like the real dumb summer blockbusters, which I've loved for those too.
Yeah.
But these to me rise above that. Nonetheless, just the action scene, same friend is talking about, like, oh, it's so stupid, it's not believable. And I'm like, if you can suspend your disbelief, imagine you're on a hike in the mountains, you're just walking, everything's peaceful, and then you hear a motorcycle engine from far away. Oh, someone else is out here. And then you see a man go full speed motorcycle towards the cliff that you had just been looking over and like, look at a beautiful, oh, there's a train coming, how lovely. You took a few pictures. It's so high up. You could see for miles and miles. And you see that same guy go over that cliff full speed and jump. That'd be the craziest thing you saw that day.
Oh, yeah.
Or I'm sorry, that would be the craziest thing you saw of your life until then. But not the craziest thing of that day, because then you would watch that man open a parachute and land on a moving train. And then that would be the craziest day of your life. And for the rest of your life, your eyes would be wider and your face would be glowing. And people would go like, hey, what happened? You just got back from vacation? Like, no, I saw something I have to tell you about.
Mm-hmm. You'll never believe it. Yeah.
And I saw that on Tuesday, Renee. Yeah. That was my Tuesday. And I might go see the movie again tonight, and that's going to be my Friday. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Life doesn't get much better than that. Like, that is amazing. That's the level of spectacle would shake anyone to their core.
Yeah.
And yet that's just like a day in the life of Ethan Hunt. Hell yeah, give it to me.
Yeah. And again, to also piggy off of that, like, these movies are not dumb. They are smart. Like, especially like when you break it down, like, story-wise too. Don't get me wrong, the second one is dumb. I would say, like, the second movie is pretty dumb. Like, there's no redeeming quality in that movie, to be honest with you.
There's a few things where he's like the philosophical choice that, and actually, sorry, maybe I'm confused. Second one is Philip Seymour Hoffman, or third one?
No, third one. That's the third one. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, never mind. Yeah, second one is dumb.
Yeah, second one.
I was remembering something from that, and I got it all. My wires crossed. But I like where you're going with this, because I actually didn't mean to just say the action set pieces. The way they set the plot up.
Yeah.
And those things, those are chess moves as well.
Mm-hmm.
But please feel free to go off.
Yeah, no, like just the way they formulate the story, the way that it kind of progresses from beginning to end. Like, I've always been a huge fan of movies where it's kind of like the heist scenario, where you see them planning everything out, they play it out in their head and all that, and then you actually join them in actually doing it, right? And you see how it plays out, and it doesn't always work out 100% or whatever. Like, I love seeing those things.
That makes it cooler.
Yeah.
But also just writing out the plan. Like, how many times has someone been like, oh, what's our get rich quick idea, right? Or like, how would you do this thing? And then everyone has an idea and they're all kind of stupid. These people are experts at what they do, and they're essentially doing a heist. We have to get the USB drive from this guy, but but the problem is that guy's going to be in this town. He's going to be surrounded by this environment. And a couple of the early movies are like, it's impenetrable. And they go, well, that's what we're here for. And maybe it was this movie, or maybe it was one of the last ones. But at some point they go, but that's impossible. They go, perfect.
Like, like that's what we do. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have to write it to where there's improvisation happening in real time because something goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's always makes it more fun. But just to write that plot out, regardless of any of the action pieces, and saying, okay, it's like an Agatha Christie novel at some point, or like a whodunit murder mystery that's well written, because you have to get the people in the room and and then they're kind of retroactively explaining the thing. But I don't even know, my brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So my mind is often blown by those. And if you are a huge fan of murder mysteries, whodunits, whatever, spy thrillers, but to my mind, these are so complex. And then there's times someone actually was someone else. They're pretending to be someone else. They got bad information, so even the audience and the characters are working with bad information the whole time. I love that aspect of this franchise. That's what makes it a smarter franchise for sure.
Yeah, and I also love the fact that as an audience, they made a lot of the elements in it so believable that we kind of just accept it for what it is. Because if it was any other franchise and we saw the whole mask thing, like we would have been like, all right, come on, really? But with each movie, they help further explain like how that actually works. And if you go back and watch the other movies, they show it more and more. Like they show the device that makes it. They show how they implement it. They show like the voice, how it changes and all that, and how they have to make it work. So it made it to the point where like, oh, okay, now I kind of just I accept the fact that that is something that's real within this realm of reality that we're in. Because again, like, yeah, if it was like a Fast and Furious kind of thing, you're like, oh, come on, this is horseshit. Like, there's no way this is believable and all that. But then you add the action elements to it. And I think also the whole intrigue with these movies is just knowing, all right, what did Tom Cruise do to himself in this movie that was real? You know, and I think it really started with the second one, even though I don't like that movie. The whole knife fight scene where they had to put a real knife on suspended wires that will only stop at a certain level above his eye, and they had to film it that way. I'm just like, what are you freaking nuts? Why would you want to do that? You know, but to get that believability in there, I'm just like, wow, you're going to go that far for your craft? I mean, that's... And then now we see it, like, now we expect it with everything that he does after that. You know, it's just like, okay, what crazy thing is he going to do this time? You know, so...
Right. And to my point about him jumping off the motorcycle, then you see him land on the train and the train's gone, and that's the craziest thing you've ever seen in your life. That's not the craziest thing that happened to him that day.
No,
he then had to... a bridge blows up. He's jumping up cars that are falling for so long.
Yeah.
And then the action starts. Like, what is happening? Then he starts engaging with the bad guys. My God. He's going on the moving train, which is another shout out to the first one. They're doing the knife thing while the train's going through a tunnel. Incredible. Incredible. That's why I love these movies. I'm curious if we were to maybe it's a future episode, but we rank blockbuster franchises. I'm wondering how this would rank, and we can't even go through. There's such a long list.
There's so many.
But like, the Jurassic Parkses and the James Bonds and the Marvels and everything else. How would this rank in those? And honestly, it's pretty high for me. It's going to be higher than a lot of the ones that maybe have made more money or maybe in some ways more popular. I do have a bit of confirmation bias happening now, but it's rare that I've seen every single one just kind of incidentally, especially during the parts of my life where I didn't enjoy blockbusters and have enjoyed them, and it has such a nice place in my heart. So, and there's so few, 1 out of 7 being your flop ratio. That's incredible.
Yeah, and that's how I would judge it too, because like you said, with 7 now in the franchise, and 1 maybe being the dud. You know, that is an amazing track record for that, you know, and it seems to get...
Jurassic Park would kill for that track record when they
my God,
1 hit,
totally.
Maybe 2, maybe 3. And I don't mean just box office. I mean acclaim and box office.
Right.
And all
Yeah.
that. But they've been in flop city for a couple movies now, and there was a couple flops after the first one. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. That's a terrible batting average, but it's still made, what are we at, 6 movies now in Jurassic Park?
I think something so. Like that. Something like that.
Anyway, that's a beloved franchise still. Nothing like you're talking about movie Jurassic Park's untouchable. It hasn't really sullied it, but damn, 1 out of 6 maybe, and this one's at 6 out of 7. That's wild. You know,
it's crazy. It's nuts. And I know I didn't say it, but I think I also agree. The first one is probably going to be my all-time favorite in this franchise, just because, again, story. The way it was directed, the way everything flowed. The trivia fact that I thought was fascinating, and I had to like remind myself, is that Ethan doesn't fire a gun in that movie at all. There's no gunfight. There's like no gunfight and no really like gunfire. Like everything is all espionage. which is fantastic. And I was like, wow, that's another reason why I really appreciate that movie so much, because it didn't rely so much on like the bang bang kind of aspect to it. And then we got a lot of that stuff later on in all the other movies. I mean, let's not talk about the second one, because you went from that to the extreme in the second one, right? But yep. I do also want to shout out the third movie, the one directed by J.J. Abrams, because if it wasn't for him, he helped kind of save that franchise, because the second one was such a bad turn that it could have totally killed it, right? But then JJ comes in, and people forget JJ was actually really good at the whole action spy genre. I mean, he did Alias on TV for several years, and that was such a great hit. And he did such a great job. I actually missed that team. That's why I'm like, I keep saying missed opportunity in not bringing Maggie Q back. The other dude, Jonathan Myers.
Jonathan Rhys-Meyers.
Rhys-Meyers, like missed opportunity and kind of like just bringing them back a little bit, because that was a great team. That was a fun team that I saw working with Ethan there. But then you're right. The fourth is what helped kind of get us to where we are now with the whole mythos and the way that the tone of it all. So it'll be interesting once this part 2 comes out, hopefully next year, where we could actually do a final deep dive as to, okay, where do all of these things rank? Because I do feel like it's unfair to rank this movie right now, because it could change solely based off what we get in the next one. So yeah.
And if we look at it like as a one movie, which part 1 and part 2, sure, or if it's really going to be more 2 separate movies and how we categorize that, etc. And then some of the issues we had with this movie, they could all be corrected by the next one, or exacerbated. And I have a feeling, at least the way that things are going, they've got the formula down. Same director who made Top Gun is amazing.
Christopher McQuarrie,
Which I hope they release next movie next year, because if you have 3 years in a row those numbers, then you're in some wild stats territory of blockbuster records and achievements, to where like, James Cameron gets the number 1 movie every 10 years, but they get the number 2-ish movie, or like they make $1 billion plus every year. That's wild.
And it's all Tom Cruise too. Like to have Tom Cruise, to have Tom Cruise and this guy have like 3 hits year after year, that would be fantastic. That would be phenomenal.
Right. Yep.
So at the end,
back, maybe Tom Cruise did it.
Hell yeah, he saved Hollywood for F you, Nolan. And AI, yeah. So at the end of the day, what was your ranking on this movie on Letterboxd? 5, the big 5. Wow.
A little more realistically, I might give it 4.5. That friend who was talking shit about the franchise, I was trolling them, and I put in 5. And be like, wait, did you really like it though? And I'm like, oh, I'll show you how much I liked it. Boom. That said, 4.5 or 5, I'm gonna say for sure. I had an amazing time with 2 bros watching the movie, and we're pumping our fists, high-fiving, going like, whoa, doing that thing. If you get that reaction out of me like 8 times in your movie, that's 5. I was fully enthralled the entire time.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, I gave it a 4 for me.
That's good.
Which is still good. Yeah. And again, I really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. And again, rating could change based off what we get in the next one and all that. But I think 4 is a solid rating for me for this movie. It was very enjoyable. And again, like I said, seeing it a second time, it made me appreciate a lot of the action scenes so much more. So just seeing the finished product. But I also have that appreciation because I saw how it looked like before, and the crazy,
even better.
The crazy shit that they went through. I mean, I'm just like, my God, like they really went all out on this film, and I can only imagine what they have ready and in store for us in the next one, because you got to top it, right? Each time, Tom has to top it every time. Yeah, that's just his ego will not let him do anything less than that. So
they don't call him Top Gun Tommy for nothing.
That's right.
I might go rewatch this one tonight, literally. Like this is on the top, and there's not much out until we got Barbenheimer coming up.
Oh my God!
The next episode a little bit.
Yeah.
Until then, I need a movie in my life, and it's going to be this will be. We get 3 AMC movies a week, and it'll be this one, then Barbie, then Oppenheimer.
So here's my question as we close out this episode. So Barbenheimer is next week. Are you watching both movies in one day?
You know I would, and I would love to, but they did the Wednesday 7 p.m. Barbie blowout showtime.
They
So I got
did.
tickets
That's
for that.
right. Yeah.
And that sold out so damn fast, and yet your boy was on it. I'm so glad I set up my
Nice.
notifications on my AMC app. So I literally
Yeah.
go in, and it was like first 2 rows. Ha! Jokes on you, idiots. I choose the first row
Like,
because I
I live
love
for
being on the
that.
first row. No, I'm not kidding. Like, I go out of my way for the
Oh, I know.
first row, plenty, unless I'm seeing with friends, because then they're like, "Oh, that's psychotic. You're a weirdo. What's wrong with you?" And I'm sorry, I love movies so much. I want to be wrapped up in them. I don't want to
I
be able
want to
to
be
see the
in it.
sky.
I want to be in it.
Literally.
Yeah.
I want the movie to be the ocean, and I'm a tiny little fish swimming at the bottom. I have no problem with that. So it's like, oh hell yeah. Same with Oppenheimer. It sold out so fast. I think got on it a day late. And I really wanted to see it in the best theater I could.
Yeah.
There's still some available, but I'm going the experience they meant me to have, but not the seat. I saw an article. Christopher Nolan rates which seat to sit in for
No, he didn't. He did.
Oppenheimer.
Are you serious? I
Yeah,
didn't know
well,
this.
somebody's asking him, and it's like it's just
Okay.
an answer to an interview question or whatever. But he gives his answer, and it's essentially in the middle. I think he said 3/4 of the way down or 2/3 of the way down, something like that. But
Huh.
ideally, you're not in the middle. You're just kind of like looking up a little bit or whatever, or it's like right at your eye line is with the whatever. Huh, jokes on you, Christopher Nolan. I will not be seeing it where you want me to. I will be in the front row of your movie, being nuked. I will get radiation from the screen, I hope.
Oh my god. I love him as a director, but there's just something about his whole geekism about the whole movie theater going experience that's just, you got to also appreciate and love too his passion for it all. But
We need more
there's
of that, honestly.
yeah.
There's too many people who are taking the paycheck, and this guy's like, "No,
Yeah.
I'll lose money because I love movie theaters so much." Is this an appropriate costume for Oppenheimer? Because I'm not
Go
gonna
for
wear
it.
like a trench coat and a fedora. If I get a microwave and then put it around my head and then open the door up and then just have a micro,
I
isn't
think
that the same
I think
technology, or is that not how that
I
works?
think you should go full on tinfoil hat, just to help protect yourself from the radiation,
Why did I think of that? For the record, I did look at. You might appreciate this. I did look at Mario Babam costumes. They're not realistic enough. I don't know if you can imagine that, but they look pretty stupid on an adult who's trying to sit in a movie theater with people around him. I'm not doing that.
especially like opening night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
And they're like, "Sir, you can't sit because the people around you can't see." And I go and sit on the floor in front of the screen, even closer than the front row. I honestly was like, if they would let me do that, I would wear the costume.
Sitting there like cross-legged, just like looking at
like a beanbag, not even a man, just a bomb beanbag at the front of the theater. Someone kind of comes and tries to sit on me. I go, no.
Like,
What are you doing?
no. Hey.
Why is that beanbag talking?
Yeah. Oh my god, that's hilarious. Oh, now I want to do something like that. So
we
I
do
know
more silly dress up stuff. That's gonna be our challenges. It's what
I
we
know,
said we
right?
would do. Whoever loses the box office summer game is
That's
the other
true.
person gets to pick a costume for a movie in the fall.
Oh man, are you dressing up in pink for the blowout party?
I actually don't own anything pink.
I don't
But I
either.
might
Yeah.
I thought about doing a Ken thing because I was looking through the Ken trailer. Their costumes are so 90s ridiculous.
Sure. Yeah.
For the Ken characters, I'm not sure how they're set up, but if they're all Ken or some of it, whatever. But the male characters in it, I don't own anything that looks anything like that. So I'd have to go to a craft store or order. I'm not doing that. So I might do I'm wearing a polo. I might do a polo and shorts, a little beachy look or something.
If you have like a sweater, you could tie it around your neck, do like a whole preppy 90s thing.
I think preppy, whatever beach chic look, something like that. Maybe I'll do.
Yeah,
but I'm not
shorts, polo, and a sweater tied around your neck,
like suit type of shorts, colorful.
Yeah, okay. I think
I'm willing to go to like H&M and buy like a $14 pair of shorts for this movie, and then I'm good. Yeah. So maybe something like that.
Yeah.
The real one to me, which I'm excited about. I'm excited about Barbie. Don't get me wrong. Greta Gerwig, Noah Baumbach, Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling is my dude. I've seen basically every movie he's ever been in, except the weird few that I can't. I was at like 40 something Ryan Gosling movies last I checked. It was a
oh my god, number. Yeah,
huge fan. Oppenheimer, I'm way more excited about. And then every time I see a headline, because I don't read anything about it, I'm avoiding trailers, but I just see a headline and it's like, oh, that's about, and every time it's like more excited by it. And I'm worried that I'm overhyping it, but my understanding is I don't know what to really expect. I just know that people are saying it's really intense. So I'm going to try to like meditate beforehand, clear my mind, not have anything, no expectations, let go of everything.
Yeah.
Except my bomb costume. That's the plan.
That's like the best idea ever. That is just so fascinating. I love it. But yeah, get ready for next week, folks, because it's going to be a jam-packed major episode of Movie Time as we talk about what could potentially be two of the biggest movies of the summer, if not of the entire year. Mission Impossible aside, of course. But yeah, I'm so looking forward to it. But as you know, with all that being said, we will catch you next week then, because this ends this week's episode of Movie Time. As we say our goodbyes, Blake, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Go to letterboxd.com, look up last name Wolf. That's my username, last name Wolf, no punctuation, common spelling. And you'll see in there a list called something like 90s movies where Tom Cruise is suspended in air, worried a drop of sweat will give him away. And that includes Mission Impossible 1 and The Firm. It's true in both. I kid you not. Both of them, he's sweating. And I think one, anyway, I'm not going to spoil The Firm in case you haven't seen it yet. But that's where you can find that, and where I gave Mission Impossible 7, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, 5 stars.
Nice. And yes, do follow him in there, because I do appreciate a lot of those lists because they are quite hysterical. But yes, I am also on Letterboxd as well, obviously under the Low-Key Geek. And most importantly, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Threads. Are you still doing the Threads? I mean, I feel like it kind of fell off a little bit for some people, right? Like the whole threading the line, threading the needle.
I wasn't tweeting before, and now I started Threads, and then 2 threads in, I just stopped. So
yeah, I feel like that's a lot of people right now.
To get into it, but that's how it works with a new product. You just have a bunch of people doing it, signing up, and then not necessarily sticking to it. I don't know if that means how successful it will be or whatever, but I do have a Threads account, and I'm hopeful it's successful.
Yeah.
And I used to tweet like wild until it went through all the issues it's had.
Sure.
And so there's a version where I get back to that. We'll see.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just waiting for Threads to implement some features that is sorely missing. You know, like I don't want to see posts from people I don't follow, and I feel like I'm seeing a lot of that right now, and I'm just like, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Like that. So
the search features are what I'm waiting on.
Yeah,
because I was trying to find an article within Threads, and that's the main reason I still use Twitter, but it's because I'm on this highway. What's the traffic like, kind of thing, or like, what was that explosion in New York? It's just checking new, like people commenting on a current topic or the current NBA game or whatever.
Right.
There was some news situation that broke, and I was going to actually respond to it, but I couldn't find it, and no one I was following posted it. So they've even said that's part of the whole deal. They wanted to get it out there sooner, which good for them. I think it was a good move.
Hey, it worked.
They're going to add features. Yeah.
Yeah, it worked. What did they have? Over like 100 million signups already and growing? Jesus. And it's just like a week, right? So that's pretty nuts. You know, good for them. And I love the battle between Zuckerberg and Musk right now. It's very comical if you follow that kind of stuff. But yeah, Threads, we're on it. So you can find us there or find me there and all that. But as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, follow, comment. We would love to hear from all of you. Let us know your thoughts on Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, or just the franchise in general, your thoughts on it all. What are your favorites? What are your least favorites? And how do you feel this movie falls in between all of that stuff? Let us know. And this has been Movie Time. I've been Renee. That's been Blake. We will catch you next week. Stay cool, stay classy, stay safe. Peace out, y'all. Bye-bye.